Hello, I'm Brenna. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at Genially, your online tool for finding an alternative to traditional content, since it allows you to create all kinds of communication experience full of interactivity and animation in an easy and accessible way. Today, we are going to focus on just one of them, gamified sessions, because what better way to celebrate Genially's International Gamification Week? Today, we are going to see the keys for awesome gamification thanks to Marie Allirot, whose name you might recognize from the S'Cape extensions that she has translated to English, which has been a great help to so many educators who now have the opportunity to find and use these extensions, and who will speak to you all about gamification with Genially and the codes from S'Cape. Welcome, Marie.
Hello, nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for accompanying us today, Marie. And thank you also to all of you who are joining us, whether you're watching us live or you're watching the recording of this webinar at a later time. We hope that you enjoyed the session. Remember to hit the like button if so, and also to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already, to be kept up to date on all of the webinars we're hosting, as well as other awesome material. Now, be sure to stay until the end because this webinar is sure to be one of the most interesting ones yet, so you won't want to miss out. We also have a few surprises for those of you who are watching us live, including some time dedicated to answering your questions, as well as the possibility to get a certificate for your attendance to today's session. And we're going to give you all of those details later. For now, let's enjoy the webinar. So let's begin. We're going to start with a brief introduction that was sent to us by Patrice Nadam, founder of the French group S'Cape.
Bonjour, je suis Patrice Nadam, enseignant-formateur dans la région parisienne et fondateur de S'Cape. S'Cape, à l'origine, c'était un site recueil des escape games créés par mes stagiaires. Puis c'est devenu un site un peu plus conséquent avec des articles d'analyse, des exemples et des ressources, en fin de compte, toute une série d'outils nécessaire et utile pour quiconque voudrait créer un escape game pour sa classe ou pour sa formation. S'Cape, c'est aussi une association qui réalise, aide et forme à la création d'escape games en lien avec l'enseignement et la culture. C'est aussi une communauté qui partage et aide sur les réseaux sociaux, Facebook et Twitter, et notamment on aide à l'utilisation de Genially. Genially est souvent détourné par les enseignants pour créer des jeux ou des activités ludiques. Il permet notamment de créer des escape games virtuels ou semi-virtuels, c'est-à-dire des jeux in situ, mais accompagnés d'une phase sur écran réalisée avec Genially. C'est le cas par exemple de l'un des tout premiers jeux d'évasion de ce type, Escape from Tortuga, réalisé par Mélanie Fenard. En lien avec ces créations, nous avons alors proposé à l'époque des trucs et astuces tels que la réalisation d'un digicode en utilisant l'interactivité de Genially. On a également à ce moment-là proposé des outils intégrables tels qu'un minuteur, une roue de César, un dé. Puis par la suite sont nées les extensions. L'origine des extensions est liée à une proposition en avril 2020, ça va faire presque un an, d'un collègue Stéphane Agnel qui permettait de saisir un mot de passe en utilisant les boutons interactifs de Genially. Il a ajouté un petit peu de JavaScript qui permettait d'afficher une fenêtre d'alerte et qui dirigeait l'utilisateur vers différents Genially en fonction de la réponse qu'il donnait. J'écrivais alors sur Stéphane que Stéphane ouvre ici des possibilités intéressantes qui nous laissent entrevoir des fonctionnalités qui ne vont pas tarder à apparaître. Merci à lui. J'avais tout de suite vu que cela rendait possible l'intégration de nouvelles fonctionnalités dans Genially. J'étais loin d'imaginer le succès que ça allait rencontrer. Les débuts ont été un peu timides, je me suis exercé en intégrant du script directement dans la fenêtre d'iframe en réalité, mais tout ce que je créais n'était pas très utile, c'était vraiment pour jouer et pour tester. Et un jour, j'ai aidé une collègue qui avait besoin d'afficher un objet de Genially en fonction d'une réponse qu'on pouvait lui donner dans un questionnaire. Et donc là, j'ai créé une sorte de quiz, c'était le premier quiz, qui permettait d'afficher plusieurs champs texte et de cliquer sur un bouton de validation. Ça marchait, seulement c'était pas très pratique et reproductible, dans le sens où à chaque fois qu'on faisait une duplication de page ou de Genially, il fallait remodifier le code pour que ça marche. Donc j'ai cherché à y remédier, et c'est là que j'ai commencé à créer une sorte de digicode, j'avais un coffre-fort, et qui permettait d'avoir un digicode sur une seule page. C'est un petit peu la marotte de l'époque. Et donc, on pourrait dire que c'est la première extension, réelle extension. Mais ça a vraiment pris en mai 2020 avec le DND, la première extension, la première vraie extension qui permettait d'ajouter facilement une nouvelle fonctionnalité à Genially, le drag and drop, qui était très attendu des collègues à ce moment-là. Et en plus, on était en plein confinement et les enseignants utilisaient de plus en plus Genially pour créer leurs cours à distance. L'objectif des extensions, c'est bien de permettre l'ajout de fonctionnalités dans Genially par n'importe qui, sans avoir à mettre les mains dans le cambouis ni à saisir du code. C'est dans une volonté de partage gratuitement, non pas de réalisation complète clé en main, mais plutôt d'outils qui permettent de laisser libre cours à la créativité des utilisateurs. On adore d'ailleurs les détournements que vous en faites parfois. Les extensions évoluent en permanence en fonction des demandes des utilisateurs, mais également en fonction des améliorations que l'on peut apporter au cours des nouvelles créations. On a des collègues aussi qui nous partagent leurs réalisations, et je pense à Hervé Thomas et Nicolas Forestier qui ont, même dans un certain sens, révolutionner l'univers des extensions avec notamment leur SACFE. Pour finir, je tenais à remercier toutes celles et ceux qui réalisent des tutoriels vidéo sur les extensions S'Cape. Je pense notamment en France à Valérie Perrault, mais aussi à toutes celles et ceux dans les autres pays qui permettent de faciliter la prise en main de nos outils. Et enfin, je remercie toute l'équipe de Genially pour leurs outils et leurs encouragements qui témoignent de leur soutien et de leur intérêt pour nos extensions. Je les remercie au nom de toute l'équipe S'Cape de cette invitation à cette semaine sur la ludification. Je vous souhaite à toutes et à tous un bon webinaire et une bonne semaine et je vous dis au revoir et à bientôt. Portez-vous bien.
Great. Thank you for those words, Patrice. It's a pleasure to collaborate with you as well. And thank you as well for the support that you give to those of you who use your codes and for those of you who translate them as well, such as the case of Marie. Marie Allirot is head of French and deputy house mistress at a prep school in the southeast of England. She is a Genially ambassador and also a member of the S'Cape team. Marie, thank you again for joining us today and for sharing your knowledge with the community. I'm going to pass the microphone over to you now.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so my name is Marie Allirot, and I'm a teacher in the southeast of England, in Eastbourne. I'm head of French, and I'm a deputy house mistress. I'm a Genially ambassador, and I'm also part of the S'Cape team. I've been translating the S'Cape extension with Julia Morris, and I'm also an admin for the Facebook group Teaching with Genially. So today I'm going to show you one of the S'Cape extension called DND, drag and drop. So I'm going to show you some example of DND. So I've used it a lot in S'Cape games, but also in teaching activities. So for example, this one was part of an S'Cape game, and there was a mission behind each door, and then you could get the key. And then if you drag the key to the safe opens. So this is made with DND. This one is also part of an S'Cape game. And it was all in a house, and you had to complete mission, and then you had to drag the little duck in the bath to complete the mission. I used it also for pretending to scan a QR code. So if you drag the phone to the QR code, your clue is coming up. And you can also use it, for example, to pretend to open a door. So you've got the key, drag the key to the door, and the door opens. So all of these are examples in S'Cape game, but I also use it in teaching activities. During lockdown, I made loads of games, board games. I've used Genially's template, but I've also made my own games. And this is one of my latest games, which is based on the game Among Us. So I've used a dice from one of the Genially templates. I've used Wheel of Name to ask children to translate some sentences, and then they have to move the character. When they get on a skull, they can kill one of the crewmates. So this part here is made with DND. You can also use it for labeling activities. So this again was part of an S'Cape game. So the children had to label the monuments. So l'Arc de Triomphe, le Sacré-Cœur, la Tour Eiffel, les égouts, the sewers, les catacombes, le musée du Louvre, le Centre Pompidou, and Notre-Dame. And then they got the clue for the next task. So the D&D allows you to get a feedback after you've done the task. I've also used it for sorting activities. So for example, this one, je voudrais un poisson et un citron, so fish and lemon.
Je voudrais une glace,
des carottes
et une salade.
Et une salade. So again, you've got feedback at the end. And finally, the last example is a gap fill activity. So this one's got individual feedback, straight feedback. So je vais au stade, and you get a tick to tell you this is right, avec mon père le samedi matin. Le samedi après-midi, je vais à la piscine avec ma sœur. Le dimanche, je vais au magasin avec mes parents, mais je ne vais pas à l'église. So individual feedback and global feedback at the end. So this is what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you different examples how to use the D&D. So first, I need the template from S'Cape. So on this link, this is the translation of the S'Cape extension into English. So I click on the menu, S'Cape Tools, D&D, and I need to reuse that template. So I click reuse, and this is now going into my panel. This is now in my panel, so I'm going to show you a different example. I've already prepared my picture, but you can just import your picture with image there. So I've prepared my picture in advance. So you need to add the template from S'Cape. So I do add page, my creation, so D&D, and the template is always on a blue background. So that's this one, add. So all of these are little codes created by S'Cape to create your D&D. So for this first example, I want the safe to open when I put the key on the safe. So I need the function, this yellow function you always need. I need object one, cible one, which means target one, and on one, which is the feedback. So I'm going to copy these by doing Control-C. And I'm going to paste them on my page. So this yellow function you need to keep on your page, otherwise it wouldn't work. Now the target is the safe, the closed safe. So I'm going to group these two together. So you highlight them, group them. The object is the key. So I'm going to group these two together. And I need to be able to drag the key. So I'm going to use that little hand, drag. And the feedback is the open safe. Okay, in that case, it's not feedback, but it's just like what's going to happen if I put the key on there. So if I put that on top there, now it should work. If I do a preview, I can drag my key and the safe opens. So that's the first example. I'm going to show you a similar example with a door, how to do the door opening effect. But this time I want the key to disappear when I put it on the door. So I'm going to use the function, object one, target one, on one, which is the feedback, and off one, which will make the key disappear. So I'm doing Control-C and Control-V to have it on my page. So that function needs to be somewhere on the page. Now my target, cible in French, is the closed door. So I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to group it together. My object is the key. I'm grouping it, and I'm making sure I'm doing the drag element so I can move it. I also want the key to disappear, so I'm going to group that off element with the key. I need to redo that drag element. And my target, or my feedback, sorry, not my target, my feedback is the open door. So that means when I put the key on the closed door, I will have an open door. So I put that in the front. Now if I do a preview, I can drag my key to the door and the door opens and the key disappears. So that's two examples of D&D. Now I'm going to show you another example, a little bit harder. I've got 3 objects, 3 targets, 3 feedback, and 1 global feedback. So I want to give the food to my pets, all the ones who are crying or sad. So these will be my targets. These will be my feedback, what's happening after I've given the objects. And this will be my global feedback. So for this one, I will need the function. I always need the function. Global on for the overall feedback. Object 1, target 1, and feedback 1. Object 2, target 2, feedback 2. Object 3, target 3, feedback 3. So Control C to copy all of that. I'm going to put them on my page. So again, that function needs to be on the page. My global feedback is the thumbs up. So I'm going to group that together. Now I'm going to do the targets. So target for the dog, I'm going to group the dog with target 1. So that means my object 1 is the bone. So I'm going to group that together. And I need to remember to do a draggable element. Now my target 2 is the cat. So I'm going to group that together. So that means my object 2 is the bottle of milk. I'm grouping it. I remember to make it a draggable element. My target 3 is the rabbit. So I'm grouping these together. And my object 3 is the carrot. So I'm grouping the carrot with object 3 and I'm making sure I can drag it. So now my feedbacks will be the happy pets. So for the dog, I'm going to group on 1. I'm going to put that in the front so it will replace the sad dog with the happy dog. And I'm doing the same with the cat. So I'm just grouping. Probably have to make it a bit bigger to hide it. And then the rabbit for the last one. So grouping, putting in the front. So now if I do a preview, I can give the carrot to the rabbit, the milk to the cat, and the bone to the dog. And my global feedback comes up. So this can be part of escape game, but you can also use it in a gap fill activity. So for example, with this exercise, you've got 3 targets. So that's the 3 gaps, 3 objects, 3 feedbacks, and a global feedback. So for this one, I will need my function, my global on, my 3 objects, my 3 targets, and my 3 feedbacks. So I'm going to copy that with Control C. And I'm going to paste it on my page. So again, I've got my function. That function needs to be on the page. And I'm just going to move these on the side so it's easier. There we go. So my function needs to be on the page. My global on is the global feedback. So when I've got everything right, this picture will come up. So I'm grouping these. Now my target 1 is going to be my first gap. So I'm going to group these 2. My first object is the tool. So the tool for creating interactive content. So I'm going to group that and I'm going to make sure it's draggable using this little hand. Then my feedback will be one of the ticks and I just put it where I want it to appear. So I want it to appear here. So I'm just putting it there. My target 2 is the second gap. So I'm grouping these together. And in that gap, you should have the word interactive. So that's my object 2. So I'm grouping these together. And I'm making sure this is a draggable element. And my feedback will be the tick. So I'm just grouping these and the tick will appear there when I've got the right answer. And finally, my last gap is the target 3. So I'm going to group these together. And my object is the word educate. So I'm grouping these 2 together, making sure it's a draggable element. And my feedback is the tick. And I put it where I want it to be. So if I do a preview now, If the word is in the wrong place, nothing will happen. But if I put it in the correct place, a tick will come up. So if it's in the wrong place, nothing happens. Oh, this is in the back. So I need to make sure that these elements are in the front. So I use this, put in the front. So now this should all work properly. So the tool for creating interactive, so tick, tick, educate, tick, and my global feedback. Okay, you can make it a little bit harder if you don't want the children to have a tick after each question. You could use a check button. So this last example I'm going to show you is using a check button. So I'm going back to my template and I need the function, object 1, target 1, object 2, target 2, object 3, target 3. And I want a global feedback. And the check button is this one called Verification. And the wrong on is to show you got the wrong answer. So I'm going to copy these with Control-C. And now I'm going to paste them on this page. Okay, so as in all the examples, the function needs to be on this page. Okay, so we've got a bit more there. So global on is your global feedback when you've got everything right. So I want it with this GIF. So I'm just going to group these together. Wrong on, when there is a wrong answer, you want this one to appear. So I'm just going to group that. And again, you've got your objects and targets. So my target 1 is my first gap. So I'm going to group these together. My object 1 is the word tool. So I'm grouping these together and I'm making sure it's a draggable element. My target 2 is the second gap. So I'm going to group these together. And my object 2 is the word interactive. So I'm grouping these, making sure it's a draggable element. My target 3 is my last gap. So I'm going to group these together, and my object is the word educate. So I'm grouping this, making sure it's a draggable element. So now that's my check button, Verification. I could change it to a check button in English if you wanted to. So for example, I could even just change it to one of these buttons. So I could put this there. And I need my check button to be in the front. If I make it transparent. Now when you click that button, it will check. So if I do a preview, so the tool, so this one hasn't got individual feedback. So if I forgot to do in the front again. So I need to make sure these are in the front so they don't go behind the gaps. Okay, so the tool, so if I do it wrong, for example, and I do the check button, your wrong feedback will come up, and then you can change it and click on your feedback again, and that's your right feedback. So all of these are examples of how to use the escape extension called D&D. And this was my last example, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Great. Thank you so much, Marie. They were great examples and you explained everything really clearly. I think everyone who's watching us is really going to be able to utilize these extensions now. So I am going to share my screen for the next portion of the webinar. Here we go. Okay, perfect. Now, we hope that you have been enjoying this webinar that we are doing in collaboration with S'Cape and Marie, in which we've seen how to create amazing educational content thanks to gamification and the use of Genially together with the S'Cape codes. Now, as always, we are going to have a prize draw for one Edu Pro plan among those of you who registered to assist this webinar. And we will be in touch with the lucky winner via email. Now, in case you're watching us live and you hadn't previously registered, we are going to drop the link in the chat right now to participate. So good luck to all of you. Now, if you don't win, don't worry. All of you who are watching us now can also make use of this 20% discount on an Edu plan if you don't already have a premium plan. And this code will only be active for a few days, so be sure to take advantage and unleash your creativity. Now, also, as we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, if you need a certificate of attendance to this webinar, this is how you get it. You just have to be registered in Genially. You have to log in and head to the URL that we are sharing in the chat right now, and you can be registered for free. Now, this link will take you to the Genially Academy, where you can download your personalized and unique certificate because it's going to require a verification code. Now, this will be available as from now, but for just a few hours. So my colleagues have also been answering your questions live in the chat, but if there are any lingering doubts left, we encourage you to ask them on social media using the hashtag AskGenially. And we also remind you that you can keep learning more with our Help Center and in the Genially Academy. So now we've reached the end of today's session. If you have enjoyed today's webinar, be sure to hit like and remember to subscribe to our channel to be kept up to date on the webinars we're doing, as well as the other awesome content. So I'd like to just thank Marie. Here we have this. Thank you, Marie, again for joining us today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Great. And thank you to all of you as well who joined us today. We will see you in our next webinar, but in the meantime, we'll wait for you in the Genially Academy. So thank you all so much, and we hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye.